This is the new Intense Tazer MX. You might say, no, this isn't a new bike, and you'd be wrong. And you'd be right, sort of. Yeah, the Intense Tazer MX is based on the 2019 Intense Tazer. But the MX model is a brand new one. It arrived late 2022, and it's unchanged for 2023. So even though this is the 2022 bike, it's the same, save for some colors, I think. What stands out on this bike is probably the battery integration. This is the internal 500 watt-hours Shimano battery, the old BT8010, I think. Intense and Pivot, back in 2018-2019, decided to integrate this external battery. And I think that was a really good idea back then, because this battery is actually 500 grams more lightweight than the internal Shimano and Bosch 500 watt-hours batteries. But it makes for a different, interesting look. But yeah, 500 watt-hours in 2023, not everyone will appreciate that. There is an upside though. Along with the carbon frame, this bike is less than 24 kilos. As it stands, it's 24.7, but take off the reflective plastic, which we didn't, and the dork disc, and the pedals, and set it up tubelessly, and you will be way below 24 kilos for this size large / extra large bike with a dual crown 170mm travel fork, coil shock, and reasonably burly tires. That really is a good weight. And also, in theory, going with this 500 watt-hours battery should decrease the cost of the bike. It's difficult for me comparing prices between different markets, and the prices have been skyrocketing pretty much everywhere. But this bike is $8,990. So if you consider this bike, compare it to what's available around you to determine if the price is good or not. In Norway, it's 79,900-ish Norwegian kroners, which makes it a reasonably inexpensive bike, considering the components. The Öhlins DH38 race fork, the TTX22 Öhlins coil shock. It's 155mm travel rear, 170mm travel front, as mentioned. The Magura MT7 brakes, the 12-speed Shimano SLX drivetrain, E13 e-bike specific wheel set, 29er up front, 27.5 at the back. And there is a reason this bike is called MX. It's got the MX wheel setup, mullet wheels. It's got a dual crown fork. It's got a reasonably wide rear tire. It's a 2.8, and I haven't really seen that since like 2018, 2019. But okay, you even get a number plate cover for the front, making this bike look really motocross, which is what they're aiming at. Motor is the Shimano EP8 800. The head tube angle of this bike is 64.5 degrees according to Intense, but I find that a tad strange because they claim 64.5 for the 160mm travel bike too. So I'm guessing this really is 64 degrees. C-tube angle, just below 75 degrees. Not super steep, but the design of the C-tube angle, it's a fairly straight tube, no kink tilting the top backwards. So as you extend the seat post, the seat tube angle will remain fairly steep. And yeah, no complaints. This is, of course, a long bike, almost 1300mm wheelbase, and it can be felt on the trails, but not as bad as we were expecting, really. 450mm chainstay length, really nice sweet spot for such a long bike. Not for a lot of bikes I've got 455mm, and just chopping off a bit of it, it makes it a tad more playful while still maintaining most of the stability you expect from such a bike. So, riding the trails. Climbing, it climbs as well as any bike. The only time we sort of struggled while climbing was when trying to track stand a bit to shift the balance and get going again. And we were limited by the sort of turning circle with a dual crown fork. But other than that, it really climbs very well. On the flatter trails, sure, pick up some speed. It's fun. At slower speeds, yeah, you will notice this is a long, big bike, but they kept the weight down. And to me, it was surprisingly nimble considering what kind of bike it is. We even took it to a nearby sort of kids bike park and tried to do a bit of jumping and some berms, and it was way too big of a bike for this kind of riding, but we figured it out and had fun still. But it is, of course, the sense that this bike is built for. And having this dual crown 38 fork, sure, for a dual crown fork, this isn't really a big, bulky, heavy fork, but it adds stability. We compared it to a Suntour Duralux 36 fork on the other bike we rode. And yeah, there's a lot of difference in front end stability between these two bikes, and I really like it. It's a plush, solid front end, and the coil shock makes for a really plush rear end too. I think the 500 pounds something coil on this bike is a bit much for me, being a lightweight rider, but I guess it's okay. Anyway, it's a great descender, really fun, really confidence inspiring. And yeah, you might react to the battery integration, but riding the bike, a pretty lightweight, burly, relatively long travel. Not long travel for a downhill bike, but compared to what we usually ride, it will handle everything we can throw at it. And it performed surprisingly well at all the sort of low-speed trails that we rode. It's still early season, pre-season almost, around here. Still snow on the most exposed trails, high-altitude trails, so we didn't get to do some proper downhill. But still, we got the bike up to quite some speed over some really gnarly sections, and we were rewarded with a surprisingly nimble and very confidence-inspiring, stable, solid ride. That's it. Appreciate any likes and subscribes. Thanks for watching.